get started here. Good evening, everybody, and happy Thursday. I'm expecting probably so few people here because maybe the weather's finally nice some places.
It's beautiful here. It's
Yeah,
blue skies, sunny.
yeah, it's us too. Finally, it's been raining every day for like 5 days, so it's pretty good to have some actual weather. So, welcome everybody. And here we are for our deep dive into the Manual for Teachers for A Course in Miracles. And this week, last week we talked about is healing certain, and this week we're going to talk about should healing be repeated. And that's a really good question, and um, a really interesting thought here because yeah, you would think that if you got healed, you wouldn't have to get healed again. And I think that's what Jesus is going to talk to us about is our, uh, you know, what really,
That's
what really
almost
happens.
yeah. That's almost like the question: if you're vaccinated, can you can you get the virus still?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's kind of the same situation because if you're, we know that if you're vaccinated, it's not fully
Yeah,
anything
actually,
ever.
believe it or not, 8 members of the New York Yankee baseball team who were all vaccinated now got the virus. It was just announced.
That's
Oh
pretty,
my God. Wow.
yeah.
But
Oh,
of course, it doesn't mean that it's serious. It means they got the symptoms.
Which is, I mean, it's probably much better than if they had not been vaccinated. And
for
that's what
sure.
you have to think about. What is the actual uh, the advantage of it. And some could say that a lot of the advantage of it is that you have this mental um, certainty, a certainty in your mind that you're going to be okay and there's nothing to be afraid of, which that would be, I've been listening to a lot of Joe Dispenza, who really talks. I don't know if you know who he is, but he really talks about how healing comes about through not through medicine, but through our own inner healing. And also, Dr. What's his name? Anyway, there's a couple of doctors that, they made a study of people who had like spontaneous healing, spontaneous remissions, things that, just were assigned. There's no proof. And there's the one book I have is called The Placebo Effect. And what people don't really talk about apparently when they do scientific studies where there's some people get an actual drug and some people don't and they get a placebo instead, that the rate of healing amongst people who got the placebo is sometimes equal to the rate of healing that people who got the actual drug had. So the placebo is a book called The Placebo Effect. It's really very interesting because it's really saying, and when they talk to people who didn't get the drug, but who did get healed, and they ask them, what do you think happened? And they said, I fully believed that I would be healed. They gave me that pill and
Hey,
I
it's
just believed
Nicole.
I'd be healed. So is that Nicole?
Yes.
Yay! Hey!
Hi, Regis.
Oh man, unmute yourself and say hello. You're muted.
You, 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 you're still on mute.
I'm asking her to unmute.
We go.
That
Has that
helps.
worked?
Yes, you
Yeah.
too, Regis.
Okay, I'm sorry I'm late. The link wouldn't work from Facebook. I had to copy it into my notes and then it worked. So here I am.
Very good. Welcome.
Okay, nice to see you.
Exciting to see you. My
Nicole
goodness.
is like the original ACIM Gather.
Yeah, from a long time ago.
From 2005 at 6.
Yeah. It
Wow,
was longer than that, I think. Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, but starting then.
So beautiful. So welcome everyone. So so what we do is we I have the reading that we're going to do. We're in the manual for teachers, and we're in section 7, which is called Should Healing Be Repeated? And so we will read the paragraph and then talk about, what is Jesus trying to tell us here, and really dig into it and find out, maybe some meanings that we didn't even realize before when we read it. Is just always so helpful to have a whole group of people who are all looking, and we join together to find the truth, which is so much more useful and helpful than just me sitting and reading a book on my own. When
Yeah.
I do it with my mighty companions and we do it as a group, we see and learn so much more.
Yes. That sounds perfect. Really perfect. Yeah.
Wonderful. So who would like to read the first paragraph?
I'll read.
Thank you.
I think after the first 2 sentences, we're done. No. Should healing be repeated? This question really answers itself. Healing cannot be repeated. If the patient is healed, what remains to heal him from? And if the healing is certain, as we have already said it is, what is there to repeat? For a teacher of God to remain concerned about the result of healing is to limit the healing. It is now the teacher of God himself whose mind needs to be healed. And it is this he must facilitate. He is now the patient, and he must so regard himself. He has made a mistake and must be willing to change his mind about it. He lacked the trust that makes forgiving truly, and so he has not received the benefit of his gift. So that just says to me that you have to offer the healing as a teacher of God and then release it to God and not second guess yourself. There's no need to repeat it. You've given it to God to do, and it's God himself who's going to do the healing. And if you cannot believe that, and if you don't have faith in that, then it's your own mind that needs to be healed, not the patient who's already been healed. Beautiful. He lacked the trust.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to point out that sentence number 3 says, sentence 4, and if the healing is certain, we have already said it. That was section 6 of the teacher's manual. Is healing certain? And the answer is healing is always certain. So only the belief in doubt, or the thought that well, I'm not sure, any kind of distrust is another form of unhealing. So the healed mind is certain. And in the course it says, what can be more certain than a son of God? What can be more certain than a son of God?
Yeah, I see how you could get really wrapped up in this, because this idea of, I'm not sure it really worked. Maybe I need to do it again. Maybe I should, should do this, that, or the other thing. And, because we doubt the healing, and the healing doesn't come from us. And that's why we're so uncertain. Because if you're thinking that it's coming from you or something that you're doing, me or something that I'm doing, then I better be uncertain. There's a commercial on TV about, are you sure? And, really, you have to be sure. And me, Lynn, can't be sure of that. But but that's why he says that you really have to heal your mind, because the healing has already happened. And we know that because the script is written, it happened long ago. Nothing really ever, there have been no real effects of any of it. Nothing really has happened. And it's all over and done. We're just watching the movie of it. So, you know, if the person was healed in the movie, they're healed, whether we believe it or not. And it's not up to us to believe, it's up to us to heal our own minds so that we can receive the same healing.
Sort of makes me feel like if we're having those doubts, then rather than asking for a repeat of the healing, we need to ask for a healing of our own mind rather than a repeat of what's already been given to God.
Yes.
So if we're uncertain, we're judging by appearances. We're looking at the body that quote unquote doesn't look healed, but the healing is really of the patient and my own mind.
Yeah, and
right?
because we have this idea of time that says, I'm going to ask for this now, and later I'm going to get the answer. I'm going to, you know, smoke cigarettes now, and later I'm going to get cancer. I'm going to, you know, we have a whole concept of time, but it all happened at one time. So there is no distance between the sickness and the healing. They're both in the same place at the same time, which is really in a dream. There, you know, I was born, grew up, smoked cigarettes, got cancer, and died all in an instant, because everything happened in that instant. So, you know, I mean, I think when we get the concept of time caught up in this, thinking, you know, you take the pill and then your headache goes away. The headache was never there in the first place. So you may recognize that you don't, that it isn't there after you take the pill, because you believe that the pill has done the change, like that placebo thing I was talking about. But really nothing happened. There has been no sickness, and there is no actual healing, because the only sickness is the sickness of our own thinking, our belief about God and our relationship and our separation.
Isn't it
So
also saying that in order to heal that person, we're seeing the light of God in them? And so if we're not sure that they're healed, then really it's up to us to see the light of God in them still and again, I think.
Yeah, that is absolutely true too. Who else had something to say?
So are they referring to healing of the mind or healing of a body? What is it actually pointing to?
You know,
They're healing the mind. It's always the mind.
It is the mind, but it's being reflected in the body. So we believe it's the body that's sick, but it really is only the mind. And figuring out that when the mind is healed, the body is healed, because the body was never sick in the first place.
When the mind recognizes that it's not the body, it is healed. But if the mind thinks that it's the body, it still is unhealed. The unhealed healer identifies with being a separate body.
Yeah, I also would like to share what really occurred to me reading this, and it was perfect, is how we can already experience sometimes, right? We experience completely that, you know, like, because it's in that moment where we recognize, like what Dove's talking about, that the healing is accomplished, because we, you know, but what's been happening with me is I cycle through narratives, right? So I get caught up in the mind again, and I start to second guess, which was talked about earlier, and start thinking there's something more I have to do, or I start going into wondering and questioning, and I'm back in ego then, you know, back in narratives and things. And yet when it's all already right here and now, you know, it's already done. It's already been done. There's actually nothing that needs to be done. There's nothing truly requiring healing. And yeah, so that's where I've been at in my journey is so I've been, you know, it's funny, like I read a post the other day and it was talking about forgiveness, you know, and like the ego will ask questions such as like, we're told to do nothing, you know, be still. And it's like the ego goes, how do I do nothing? You know, how do I do nothing? As if doing nothing is doing. Like getting out of that notion that we have to do something, that there's something that's still, you know, it's to improve upon or maintain, or like, how do I maintain this? And then we'll go into fear, like where it's, you know, where everything's just perfect and all is healed, but then it's like, you know, something happens and it's like, oh no, and fear slips in. But anyway, it's, yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah, thanks. In fact, I like that expression, recycle my narratives. But everybody does that. But the certainty comes when you realize, at least I do, that lesson one kicks in, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
In other words,
yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Exactly. It's like that stuff can still happen. So there's this notion that in order to be healed, if we're attached to the notion that suddenly all our thoughts should be perfect or perfection, and dream roles kicks in, you know, we have an idea of how it should be. That's the hook that will hook us back into the narratives.
Very good.
And when the fact is that those thoughts don't mean anything, that, you know, those things aren't. So learning how to just be still with them and see them and recognize that they actually don't change anything, and they don't mean anything, and they can't take away from that perfection or the fact that you know, and it's relevant to this, because that's often why we think things need to be repeated, you know.
Excellent.
Okay, I'm done.
So yeah, and really the reality of it is it's only my own mind that needs to be healed, because it's only my own mind that is believing this stupid story. So, you know, really, I mean, everybody here, I'm sure, you know, we read the book, we say the little prayer, I'm here only to be truly helpful. And I'm, you know, all the, you know, why I'm here and all that kind of stuff. And then in the end, he says, and I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. You know, really is, it's that learning how to heal that, you know, once I learn how to do it, I will have done it. I will do it. But, you know, when we're talking about healing, you know, what is it that we're healing? Healing, you know, of course, my mind, you know, that's the first thing that you think of. But, you know, I have other, you know, people who come to me with problems, with upsets, with fears, and, you know, I counsel them and talk to them. And, you know, in my mind, I'm helping them to heal. that's the thought that I have, is that I'm healing them, uh, because I'm joining with them in this focused goal of having a healed mind. So who are we healing? And I see, do you have your hand up? Or you just
No, I don't, thanks.
okay? Okay. Does anybody have any thought about that? Or okay, Amy.
That reminds me of giving is receiving, right? The same idea is that when you say that you're meeting with them and joining with them to heal them, you're extending God's light and love and healing to them, that they can see it, and that is healing them and you and the whole world.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. If we do it, all the sonship is affected by it. So, that's why, if you are really doing this work, you want to be a part of this healing, you want to do it. And so I think that he's teaching me how to do it through the work that we're doing here. So anybody else have any thoughts about this first paragraph?
I just want to say,
Yeah,
go ahead, I'm sorry, yeah, go.
yeah. I having come from, having been a student of A Course in Miracles for such a long time, I found the biggest hook for me is really hooked on the idea that my mind needs to be healed, because it's because all throughout the course we know it's all the mind, right? But that isn't really our minds, right? It's not our real thoughts. So the notion, the misperceptions around what that means, the healing of my mind, that's been the biggest hook for me, that keeps those narratives going, because they aren't my real thoughts. It's not my, that the mind is so much, bigger, so yeah.
I would say, with response to I'm not sure if that's a question, but if it is, healing means that you don't believe in the things that you used to believe in. Like, do I believe in the world? Like, the world is something that I'm hoping is going to get better? Do I believe the world is got a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? No, I have withdrawn all my beliefs, and as I usually say, every belief has a lie right in the center of the belief. So a healed mind doesn't have a belief system. It realizes that it is cause. The world is not a cause, the world is an effect. And for me, that's the idea that there's nothing outside of me. I'm doing this to myself.
Yeah, and should healing be repeated? That's where I'm getting at. When the mind has been healed, that can be the hook that gets us back into thinking the mind needs still to be healed, is when we start to believe in that our thoughts mean something again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta just listen to Jesus. He says no.
Yes, no cause. That's what I keep getting.
Exactly. Well, let's go on to the next
So
paragraph and
if
see
we
what
were, if we were really healed, if our mind was really healed, could we slip back, or we wouldn't?
I don't think we
slip-
would. No.
Yeah.
No, the healed mind would not, because what would hook it? How would it get hooked? We might be close to being healed and feeling like we're getting somewhere, but if we keep falling back, really, we haven't gone as far as we need to go. There's still more.
I just want to mention chapter 11, section 6, called Waking to Your Redemption. It says, God's Son is saved. It says, teach only this, and you have a role in teaching equal to my own.
Yeah, past tense. And you know that healing is accomplished when you recognize there's really, in that moment where you see that moment, you see that there actually is no healing actually required. It's all just narratives and stories. We're just all caught up in the ego belief system that there's actually something going on, that there's actually, and it is part of our path, but that's all preparation, that's readiness, that's, you know, the stoking of our willingness to see past all that we've believed and all of that. But underneath all of those beliefs, the mind is perfect. It is as God created it.
Yeah.
As God created it. Right?
Yeah.
We're free to do what we want with it. We're free to go, you know, letting our minds wander down those corridors away from light center and all of that stuff. But meanwhile, it is as God created it.
Yeah, nothing happened.
So that would go right along with, if healing is really not needed, which it's not, then forgiveness is really not needed. Goes right along with that.
Yeah, and in reality, yeah, forgiveness, there's no forgiveness in heaven. There's no healing in heaven because there's no sickness. Nothing has happened. So that's the reality of it. But he gives us these little tools now because we think something has happened, and you know, we're trying to dig ourselves out of something that we never were in the first place. But you know, it's a belief that we have.
Yeah.
So
Steps to the recognition of that, steps to the moment of the recognition of that, where the miracle occurs, you know, where that shift occurs. So yeah, from another perspective, it can seem like something has occurred because we, you know, yeah, it's just not black and white, like what is, you know.
yeah, eventually we'll come to the place where we'll know that nothing occurred, and eventually is now. I mean, that's the funny thing. That's what I was talking about. Time. It isn't really something that moves along. It's something that's all here right now, and we get to choose which one we're going to experience. You know, we get to choose to experience it or not right now. Okay. And look what we're choosing. Okay. So let's go on to the next paragraph. Does anybody want to read paragraph 2 here?
Okay, I will. All right. Whenever a teacher of God has tried to be a channel for healing, he has succeeded. Should he be tempted to doubt this, he should not repeat his previous effort. That was already maximal because the Holy Spirit so accepted it and so used it. Now the teacher of God has only one course to follow. He must use his reason to tell himself that he has given the problem to one who cannot fail, and must recognize that his own uncertainty is not love, but fear, and therefore hate. His position has thus become untenable, for he is offering hate to one to whom he offered love. This is impossible. Having off, it's either not black and white, for he is offering hate to one whom he offered love. This is impossible. Having offered love, only love can be received.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just like going around and it's like, holy crap. I mean, really, he's saying it's impossible. This could never have happened. This could not be happening right now. It's, and yet we think it is.
Yes, yes, we imagine it. We've let fear creep in, which is something we've made ourselves. That's just all part of our own narratives and beliefs and perceptions. A state that does not exist.
Yeah, I love the way that it's states that the uncertainty is just fear. It makes it so clear. Obviously, if we're uncertain about it, we're afraid that it hasn't worked. So I love how it's pointing that out so clearly. Thanks.
I also love how he points out, and this goes like right to the very first miracle principle, where he says, you know, there's no order of difficulty in miracles, and all expressions of love are maximal. And that's kind of what he's saying here. It's maximal. You know, whatever we do, when we do it with the Holy Spirit, it's the most that ever can happen. When he's talking about maximal, nothing more could happen, nothing bigger, nothing better. It's the most that could ever be. And so whatever we've done, whatever we do, it's an expression of love. And all expressions of love are maximal. And they all are the same. I mean, the most. They all are the same level of healing that comes to everybody. It just reminds me of, it's a game I play Dungeons and Dragons with my family, and there's something that someone who's a cleric can do, and it's called channel divinity. And if they do a healing spell, the healing gives the most it can possibly give. It's maximal. And every time I see that, I always think about Jesus saying, this is exactly what Jesus is saying. When we offer healing, it's the whole universe. It's everything, the whole sonship turning their mind toward that healing, because it's all one mind. It's pretty much a mind-blowing concept. And who knew we had this power? And why haven't we been using it? You know, I mean, but we have been, you know, we just, again, we don't see it because it's right here and we don't see it.
I just want to say it's the second of the 50 principles of miracles, that all expressions of love are maximal. It's one of it's the second of the 50 principles.
I think it's the first, but I may be wrong, and I have been in the past.
The first is there's no order of difficulty.
I know, but it also, that's part of that miracle principle. I mean, it's the same thing. And that's why I think, because it's put together with that it's Jesus's way of saying the miracle covers everything. It's like, no matter what the fault is, no matter what the difficulty, no matter what the problem you think it is, the miracle is like putting fondant and frosting over the cake. You don't see, there's no cracks, nothing is broken, everything is perfect if you allow the miracle. And I think that's what he's saying there. And anybody else have anything else any other comments on?
Yeah, I also like the way that it's reassuring us by saying he must use his reason to tell himself that he has given the problem to one who cannot fail, and must recognize that his own uncertainty is not love but fear. Because, I mean, it's basically telling us, have that trust, have that faith to understand and believe that we've already given it over to God. What more can we do? We need to have the certainty and trust that we've already asked for and given it over to someone who cannot fail.
Yes.
I find that very beautiful.
Giving it over to the Holy Spirit is giving it over to certainty. Holy Spirit has no doubts because Holy Spirit never denied. We, on the other hand, denied ourselves. So we we do live in doubt. When you turn it over to the Holy Spirit, you're saying, I do not know. I give this to you to show me the way. That's the same as like lesson 155. Let me step back and let him lead the way. Let the Spirit lead the way.
I really love the last sentence. Having offered love, only love can be received. And I've just been recently re-listening to Way of Mastery, and I just listened to the one on creating versus making. And also there's been sync with a lot of Course in Miracles posts that people have been posting on your Facebook site stuff as well. So all that, the fear, the hate, and all of that stuff, that is just stuff of our own making, and it doesn't change anything in relation to creation and what is real. Having offered love, only love can be received. So yeah, so all that, you know, our own narratives and perceptions and all of that kind of stuff is just stuff of our own making, fear of our own making, all of that. So it's only within our own perception that we can think something that is up, and that having offered love, only love can be received, because there's the truth.
Yeah, this is beautiful. So do we want to go on to paragraph 3? Let me get that up in the thing. Anybody want to read paragraph 3?
I can read it.
Okay, thank you.
It is in this that the teacher of God must trust. This is what is really meant by the statement that the one responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for himself. The teacher of God is a miracle worker because he gives the gifts he has received. Yet he must first accept them. He need do no more, nor is there more that he could do. By accepting healing, he can give it. If he doubts this, let him remember who gave the gift and who received it. Thus is his doubt corrected. He thought the gifts of God could be withdrawn. That was a mistake, but hardly one to stay with. And so the teacher of God can only recognize it for what it is and let it be corrected for him. So I think here it's reinforcing or reiterating the idea that all healing comes from God. And our only responsibility is to accept that and stop resisting it or denying it. And then it's a two-way street. We give what we receive, and we receive what we give. But we need to remember it's not coming from us, that it's coming from God.
And what strikes me here is 7. If he doubts this, let him remember who gave the gift and who received it. Right? That's our inheritance. That was, you know, that gift was creation. That gift is our inheritance, and who received it is the truth of who we are, and that is what is established, and that is what, you know, is, yes. He thought gifts of God could be withdrawn, and that's it. It's just our own imaginings.
It brings up that idea. God created us. We didn't create God. In this world, we make God in our image. Right? You know, didn't do a good job. He's moody. Judges me. No, I'm always talking about my ego self who thinks that. God created us. We didn't create God. I think that that's pretty much what it's saying. Thanks.
Yeah, I really like where it says that we must first accept the gifts. And then it says, he need do no more, nor is there more that he could do. By accepting healing, he can give it. And it just brings me back to the idea that it's all a choice that we're making. We can choose to accept the gifts from God, or we can choose to pretend that that's not happening, or that they're not there for us. And that it all does come back to me again, to make that choice over and over again, to decide for God. Thanks.
And that line reminds me of I need do nothing. I just need to accept what God has already given me, and everyone the same.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can understand that God gave you everything. I mean, not just the little things that you think you have. God gave you everything. He gave, because we're one, everything that everyone has all belongs to me. It's, not that I'm going to go and pick it up, and take it home because they're using it right now. But because we're all one mind, everything belongs to all of us. I mean, the universe belongs to us all. I mean, I live in Colorado, and you go to the Rocky Mountains, and some places you can't even pick up rocks and bring home because it's like against the law. And you're thinking, well, these are the mountains, they belong to everybody, don't they? God's not like the state of Colorado. He gave us everything, and we can have it all. but we have to share it. That's the problem. We don't want to share it. But if we want to share it, then that's what he's really asking us to do. Share our healing, share our love, share our minds with all, to give all to all. And because he gave it all to us in the first place. There's how can there be poverty in God, who owns everything?
Thank you for that. Because when you try to hold on to something by making it special, thinking that you're special, that's the control of the ego. By sharing it, you don't own anything, you don't possess anything, you're sharing.
Yeah, and it's natural. So
I was gonna say that's quality.
that's equality. Yeah, that is equality. And it's our inheritance. So do we want to read paragraph 4?
I can read again if no one else wants to
Okay.
read.
Thank you.
One of the most difficult temptations to recognize is that to doubt a healing because of the appearance of continuing symptoms is a mistake in the form of lack of trust. As such, it is an attack. Usually, it seems to be just the opposite. It does appear unreasonable at first to be told that continued concern is attack. It has all the appearances of love. Yet love without trust is impossible, and doubt and trust cannot coexist. And hate must be the opposite of love, regardless of the form it takes. Doubt not the gift, and it is impossible to doubt its result. This is the certainty that gives God's teachers the power to be miracle workers, for they have put their trust in him. So it just goes back to the very beginning where it's saying that we have to trust that once we've given this over, it's been given over, and that is all that we need to do. And it's saying it's just so beautifully that when we don't have that certainty and that trust in God, we're actually attacking the patient, attacking God by thinking that something is still wrong when we've already given it over to be healed. So obviously it must be healed. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that, if it's healed, and I had this happen to me one time when I was going through a lot of insane mental mental acrobatics about some situation or the other. And, I kept saying, Holy Spirit, please just, take this, take this and fix this. I just can't stand the way I feel anymore. And, I just please take it. And finally, Holy Spirit just said to me, I can't take it if you won't let it go. You are the one who's holding on to it. And this is, I think, what he's talking about. We have to let it go and know that it's done. We don't all day, every day, please heal my mind, heal my mind, heal my mind. And we don't even recognize that it's already been done. We're just, stewing up in our little teapot, trying to maintain our focus on really the ego, the stimulations of the ego. That's all we're doing, is we're just focusing on the ego and not paying attention to the fact that that thing has no power, can do nothing, and has done nothing. And we're really home. We're already home.
Yeah, it points back to acceptance. As long as we can accept it, then it is so. And as soon as we're not willing to accept it, then we're back at the beginning again, and we've lost the trust and the faith that we need.
Yes. Yeah.
But we didn't have the trust and the faith we needed to begin with if we are at the point that we need to hand it over. We need to hand it over because we don't have the trust, because it's already done. Before we even hand it over, it's already done.
Yeah, it's not like a test. God's not saying, if you come to me nicely, I will fix this for you.
But I think the word acceptance is the key word there, because what we do as the ego, we resist. Resistance is the source of all pain and suffering. So I can resist in a million different ways. Like I think I'm right and you're wrong. I resist by doubting, by denying. Acceptance to me is the same as trust. Even though trust seems to be the one that they really use in the teacher's manual as the basis of all of God's teachers, of the 10 characteristics of God's teachers. Trust is the foundation, and once you have trust, everything else. But I think the easiest way to get to trust, the easiest way is to accept. And lesson 268 says, let me accept all things exactly as they are. Let me accept all things. Now, if you're accepting all things, to me, that's the same as trust.
Yeah. Totally agree. So then it's our resistance and our non-acceptance of things that keep us in the hell. So whatever it is, I just can't get over it. Every time I think about it, it makes me, upset again. It seems like, it's our own resistance to accepting and just saying it happened. Okay, it's over. And whatever it is that you may be upset about or afraid of or whatever, to just be able to just look at it, say, it has no effect on me. Whatever happened to me in my life, whatever happened to me in my childhood, whatever happened to me when I, was in prison, or, any of the stories that we have, if we could just get over the specialness that comes out of the stories that we think are making us different and special, which it really, that's what it is, eh, you know, I just want to keep the story alive. So I don't want to accept that nothing happened, because then I would have no basis to keep up this story. So you have to really, really understand the psyche of, the ego, that, it's going to do whatever it can, and kind of hold you hostage to the past. If you don't just accept things happen, nothing has gone wrong, and everything is perfect just the way it is. I don't care what happened. Nothing really went wrong. Okay, we got about 6 more minutes. Let me see. 2 more paragraphs. We may just stretch it out a little bit. Does anybody else have anything to say about paragraph 4? Okay, how about paragraph 5? Anybody want to read? I guess I can read. I will. Okay. The real basis for doubt about the outcome of any problem that has been given to God's teacher for resolution is always self-doubt. And that necessarily implies that trust has been placed in an illusory self, for only such a self can be doubted. This illusion can take many forms. Perhaps there is a fear of weakness and vulnerability. Perhaps there is a fear of failure and shame associated with a sense of inadequacy. Perhaps there is a guilty embarrassment stemming from false humility. The form of the mistake is not important. What is important is only the recognition of a mistake as a mistake. Well, that's just what I was just saying. Before I read that, I could have saved myself some time by just going ahead and reading the paragraph, because really that's exactly what he's saying. It happened. If you think it happened, don't take it personally. There is nothing here has been done to harm you, to make you upset, to make you sad or sick or anything. And all of these ideas that your ego is telling you, this is shameful, this is fearful, this is, this just shows that you're stupid. I say that to myself all the time. How could I be so stupid? I can't be stupid. It's impossible. But, the ego makes me think that I am, and I make mistakes, and that the mistakes are things that are going to cause problems and cause me problems. And Jesus is just saying, forget about it. It's a mistake. A mistake is a mistake. None of this is real. Give it up. Anyway, everybody have any thoughts about it?
I think you said that perfectly. The form of the mistake is not important. And that's what really hits me, because that's what gets me going off into narratives when I start going off into seeing the form as important. That's all I want to say. So this is really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, it just makes me think of like a conversation that I have with my daughter today, and she's talking about, situations with her husband and, her life. And I'm asking her, where did you get the idea that your husband's supposed to act a certain way? Where did you get the idea that you're supposed to, this is, it's Mother's Day, you better bring me flowers? Where did you get this idea from? And why are you holding other people to your, this standard that is just artificially made up by society and the world? And you're being angry and upset, and you feel like you've been hurt. You feel like you're being slighted. because this thing you expected to happen didn't happen. Where did you get the idea that that was how things were supposed to be? Because they didn't get it from me. I never taught them that. but you know, it's wherever we got that idea of how things are supposed to be, that's what keeps us tied up in this place where we think things are going wrong all the time. You know, people shouldn't die in tsunamis, and you know, I mean, we have all kinds of things we think should and shouldn't be happening. What gave us the idea that was the way it was supposed to be?
Yeah, and Jesus covers this in dream roles so well. And, you know, it talks about that, which is like this, the form is not important. You know, dreams are dreams. It's not about the form of it, you know.
Yeah, and also the doubt about the outcome, and the self-doubt. I mean, that's the ego just stepping in and trying to make problems that we can focus on instead of having the faith and trust again that God's got this. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that, Dove, you brought up lesson 268, because you know, I mean, really, if you could just, or Byron Katie, you know, when she says, when you argue with reality, you lose. Only every time arguing with what's happening in the world is a losing situation. You're never ever going to win that argument, because you're talking about something that's a story. It's not even real. Anybody else have any thoughts about? So do we want to go ahead and read paragraph 7? You guys want to stay over a few minutes and read paragraph 7?
I think it kind of concludes the section, I think.
Okay, then please.
I do.
I do too.
What a kind of ending.
I'm just being cautious of your time. I don't want to, you know, assume things, because, you know, where did I get the idea that okay, who wants to read paragraph 7?
Does it, I can, but does anyone else want to read? Dee, do you want to read it?
Okay, I'll read it.
Okay.
All right. The mistake is always some form of concern with the self to the exclusion of the patient. It is a failure to recognize him as part of the self, capital S, and thus represents a confusion in identity. Conflict about what you are has entered your mind, and you have become deceived about yourself. And you are deceived about yourself because you have denied the source of your creation. If you are offering only healing, you cannot doubt. If you really want the problem solved, you cannot doubt. If you are certain what the problem is, you cannot doubt. Doubt is the result of conflicting wishes. Be sure of what you want, and doubt becomes impossible. If you are certain what the problem is, you cannot doubt.
So it's our relationship with our creator that really, I mean, this is all we're attesting to.
Yeah. It kind of brings up for me Ken Wapnick's famous, the ego is nothing more than a maladjusted solution to a non-existent problem, meaning you
Yes.
really have no problems. That's lesson 80. Let me recognize I have no problems. The ego doubts that. It says, well, you have plenty of problems. What are you talking about? So the ego wants you to think about problems. And again, that brings up the other metaphor from Ken Webb. He says, you think your problem is just sitting in a sandbox and people are kicking sand in your face and you're trying to determine, Should you kick sand back or should you run in the other direction? He says, that's not your problem. Your problem is you think you're sitting in a sandbox and there isn't any sandbox.
Perfect. Yeah.
The ego sees problems. Spirit sees no problem. Spirit sees you as God created you. He doesn't see any problems. Doesn't see sin, guilt, blame, shame. He sees you as a certain son of God, as himself, as herself, whatever.
It's interesting here too that it says that this mistake of the doubt is a form of concern with the self to the exclusion of the patient. So we think that we're doing this healing, then we're doubtful that it's worked, and then suddenly it comes back to us and our own small s self. The ego has stepped in once again and made us believe that there is something wrong with us, with the situation, with the patient again. So I find that very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think what we, even from the very first paragraph of this, I was thinking how easy it is to fall into the trap of feeling guilty because we are just stumbling over this insanely simple lesson over and over and over. And like I said, I'm always asking myself, how can I be so stupid to keep falling this for the same thing over and over and over? But you know, it really does take, I guess, as much to make it go, as much work to make it go away as it took to get here in the first place. You know, or you know, I'm just running around in a hamster wheel, which is pretty much, I think, my life.
I think
Yeah, it's those narratives. It's those narratives. We keep getting hooked back into our scripts, our stories. That's all it is. You know, every holy instant, moment of remembrance. That's it. That's who we are. That's what it is always, all the time. You know, always. The rest of it, the whole stories, the whole seeming big never-ending crusade that we're on and all that, you know, is part of the story. And yeah, we have to, you know, that's why forgiveness is, it's okay for there to be them. Like that's, you know, what I was saying in the beginning. I have this idea that there shouldn't be one, that it should all just disappear. But that is not necessarily the case. Just because there is appearance of symptoms or thoughts that come or a seeming narrative, because that's all part of the dance, you know, that these things come up, but it's about seeing them differently. Like back to that it doesn't mean anything, making peace with it. It's just, these are this is what I have made. This is my, you know, and recognizing God is actually in all of it, within the content. The form might be crazy, but within the content of that, it's God. It's God. We're looking at God. We're looking at love. It's all love, content-wise, you know. So I appreciate this opportunity to teach myself here and remember the truth. Thank you, everyone, so much.
Very good, Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. It's good to see you. And
It is all God. That's true.
it
like
is
how
all
it
God.
ends. Be sure of what you want, and doubt becomes impossible. I love that.
Yep, I love that too, because that's the big problem is I'm not sure of what I want.
Yeah,
I
we
think
say,
I want other things.
well, and we say that we want to heal the person, and then we just doubt it until we're make ourselves crazy. But if we can just remain certain of what we want, then doubt vanishes.
that's why the lessons that we just went through, 128, there's nothing in this world I want. 129, there's a world beyond this I do want. 130, it's impossible to be in two different worlds. And then today's lesson, I won't value the valueless, which valuable belongs to me.
Exactly. I was thinking of today's lesson as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this really goes with that really well, as a matter of fact. So,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
all right, you guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out. And next week we will, oh, there's this teacher's manual, just is so beautiful. So we'll pick up with the next section, which is what is it?
How can perception of order or difficulties be avoided?
That's huge.
That's big.
That's the order of difficulties I don't even know about. It is huge.
That's
I need that
wonderful.
one.
And I hope you are okay with this, but I'm actually going to set up a weekly reminder because I really, really enjoyed joining with you, and I really want to come back.
Thank you so much,
Perfect.
Nicola. We really appreciate
Outstanding.
you, truly.
Thank you, Nicole. It's good to have you. It's good to have all of you. Thank you for coming in. And I will be posting this up on YouTube. So has anybody heard anything from Tom or Kathleen? Or we're missing a few people.
I don't know what happened.
I think it's the weather, you know, maybe their internet connection.
Yeah, these are on YouTube if you want to go there. Nicole.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. So,
Thank you.
all right, you guys,
Thank
I
you.
love you all.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Namaste.
Share and let everybody.
Namaste.
Namaste, guys. Love you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.